This is Trophy Dark, a warm and pleasant hum, part two. A quick recap. The three of you were heading into the legendary Humming Woods in order to find the sixth form heart, where you hope to acquire a magnificent royal jelly with curative properties, or the mother of millions, which is the queen bee of the bees that live in the Humming Woods, in order to take her power, whatever that means to you, or both, I suppose. But in any case, this is what you were doing. You set out in ring one. The main thing that happened there is we had a little preamble with a strange bleeding goat, and then after that, you encountered some ill-favored adventurers in beekeeping outfits, dispatched them or got away from them as needed, and then you pressed forward. In ring two, you were in this open field of tall flowers and getting covered in sticky pollen, and you all had kind of different strange experiences that were kind of going on there, which we'll probably allude to, as we kind of go. But ultimately, it all ended with this magnificent stag or moose coming out of the tree line from the deeper part of the forest. They were covered in honey. They had dead bees stuck to their antlers, indicating they managed to get inside something. And they were leaving golden hoof prints. And we heard several legends associated with this moose, and one or more of those might make an appearance or might be confirmed as true at some point today. And you pressed forward. If we look at the characters for recap purposes, right now, Osto has a ruin of 4 and has a condition where Osto craves sugar. And we saw this we saw it a couple times. At one point, Kiva shared a sweet wine with Osto that Osto downed really quickly. And then at another time, Osto received honey from a large bee in a very what I can only describe as almost like a sort of strange insectoid pietà of honey transference. But it was great. And so that's sort of where we find Osto at the moment, feeling good about these bees, right? Moradai is at Ruin 5, which we'll talk about in a moment. And Moradai has a condition whereby he must disguise himself as a bee. And we've seen that in a few different ways, principally the application of mud and other things to appear as a bee. And also, Moradai was sort of pollinated or something by a large flower. Stamen deposited something inside of Moradai, which I think will also probably come up at some point, or it might just be how we see the end of Moradai if it comes to it. But in any case, that's where we're at with Moradai. And Kiva is at Ruin 4. Kiva currently has the condition whereby she must attract insects to herself by putting flowers and other things on her. And we've seen that. We've seen that several instances of that. And a reminder about your drives is probably really important here. Kiva's has the most the one that requires the most sort of financial necessity, which is to buy her brother's freedom from Barcel prison. And we've seen some nice flashbacks about the relationship with her brother. Moradai has the Gesh placed on him by the Witch of Navask, which forces Moradai to go and collect these goats and sheep from the far corners of the world, this dispersed flock. And Osto has to join the Swirling Court. And we've actually seen some evidence of the Swirling Court having been here in the Humming Woods as well, which is interesting. Does anyone have any questions or anything they want to share or remind us about their characters before we continue?
Just one thing. It may have been stuck in some other part of something I was saying. I just wanted to repeat it. Even though my picture has the mask on, I have taken the mask off for the time being. So my face is fully available for anything that might sting it or kiss it or whatever that might be.
Sure. Yeah. I think we're all fully expecting you to be wearing a flower mask at some point by the end of this.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
Anything else? Okay. Then with all that said, let me remind you, Mark, about the rules for once you hit Ruin 5. So once you've hit Ruin 5, you can do what's called a reduction roll. And in order to trigger the reduction roll, you have to betray the group. You have to do something in service to the Hummingwoods or just otherwise screw over the party in some way. You are ostensibly doing this secretly so that they don't know. And you do a little die roll, and it automatically works. It never fails. You always will go down. But what's at stake is if you roll too high, you will be caught. The others will catch you doing your betrayal. So that's sort of how that works. And I've literally never played this game with somebody who didn't want to get caught. but in any case, your character doesn't want to get caught. So we'll kind of put in your characters, put the ball in their court as far as that goes. And so I recommend doing that pretty quickly because a ruin roll could trigger pretty quickly and get you out of the game. So I think we probably will want to see, if you want to do that, we'll want to see what that betrayal is pretty early on here as we get going. And I want to go check the rules real quick because I can't quite remember what the specific numbers are. I always forget this. I always have to look it up. I can't remember if you have to roll like equal to or lower or absolutely lower.
Less than, it looks like. Higher to or equal to will trigger the detection.
The betrayal. Okay, the detection. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, thank you. Good. Well, then in that case, yeah. So I think we'll begin. Oh, and there's a question about the antivenom. It got used. I think it got used and more dies back up to 5. So yeah, like
missed that. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. So it was basically wasted. All right, let's begin. Ring 3. The trees are becoming more crowded the closer you get to the forest's heart. You have a path to follow, for a while at least, which is the reverse path of the direction that the moose came from, right? Because presumably the moose came from somewhere where there was lots of honey and bees. And so for a time, you can follow that. You also have this map, and I've made a decision on this map. The map showed a couple of things. It showed potential sites for the hive. It also showed patrols for the soldier bees, right? The big ones. And it had a picture of a soldier bee as well, just in case you aren't sure what you're looking at. I've decided that you get a one-time use out of this map. If you think it would be helpful in the moment, whoever has it, you can get a free light die for using the map. So that's how we're going to do that. So like if it would help you avoid a patrol, if it would help you find something or get, a better vantage point or something, you can use it for that. But in any case, these things combined will sort of get you going in the right direction. And indeed, we see you sort of moving through, getting closer to the forest's heart, the trees becoming much thicker. Bee sightings are becoming more frequent. You have the sort of smaller scouting varieties. You start to see some that are like soldier bees, I suppose. They're very large, like a kind of large hounds, but they have no wings. They just walk. And you kind of see them tromping around. The key to this ring, and indeed for the remainder of the session, is going to be how do you disguise yourselves from the bees? Or do you? Presumably they operate mostly off smell, so that's something to keep in mind. It may not be a visual thing as much as a smell thing for them. You're all currently covered in pollen, which means you're probably going to attract them, if anything. And so I guess at the outset here, I would just want to check in with each character, and I think we should just have the scene with the three of you sort of like maybe sussing out what to do here, kind of how to handle this as the bees are becoming thicker and more varied, and also you're covered in pollen. So um, let's just role play that out.
Cool. And what did you say our surroundings look like right now?
Just much thicker forest.
Just thicker forest. Okay. Great.
Yeah, like it's starting to be very like the trees are starting to be very, very like thick. You have to like, kind of like get machetes and clear out brush. So sometimes.
Osto, are you wearing your flowered? Or no, it's Kiva wearing your flowered accoutrements at the moment.
I've been picking flowers as we walk, putting them in different places. I don't have a full mask or crown or anything like that. It's actually something she doesn't realize she's doing. So,
I think at some point in the journey there, I think Mordai is getting like more and more agitated that the other two aren't being as careful to disguise themselves as I'm trying to be, whether it's successful or not. And I think at some point, just like we like just after missing, like being missed by some bees or something, kind of like turn on, like do like a whisper hiss, kind of like, we have to be more careful. We can't do anything to attract more attention. Please do like I'm doing. Cover yourself in mud and act more like a bee, less like a flower.
These creatures mean us no harm, Brother Mordai. If we treat them with respect, if we come here with no anger in our hearts, they will do us no harm.
Do you think that's what happened with the adventurers we met at the edge of the forest?
I think they came here with ill intent.
And Kiva, you're looking to take something from them to sell. That seems like
Yes.
they might interpret that as hostile intent.
We aren't all coming for something.
The
We
bees,
are.
the bee that I encountered earlier was willing to share. I think if we come with the spirit of humility, the hive will be willing to share what their bounty with us. We have no reason to fear.
And yet the moose walks out covered in its prize with dead bees strewn about. It did not take its prize without violence.
Its way does not have to be our way.
I'm curious, whenever a patrol flies overhead, this is be the sort of medium size, sort of bigger ones. Whenever a patrol flies overhead, how do you each react? Do you try to hide yourself? Osto, do you wave at them? Like, what's everyone's reaction?
I definitely hide. I get up under a tree with big branches.
Yeah, I'm not, maybe not necessarily get out of sight, but definitely try to be not seen somehow.
So looks up quite happily and watches as they go past.
Osto, at a certain point, a number of the small fist-sized little collector bees sort of spiral down at you, and they begin to, their little mandibles begin sort of carefully prying away the pollen covering your body. And at a certain point, you are covered by them. I'm curious, what do you do?
Osto stands with a smile coming on his face, stands very still and stretches his arms out in almost a tree-like pose, and turns his head slowly to watch as the bees crawl along his limbs and into his hair, under his robes, and turns to the others and says, "So please see, they're not hurting me in any way. You have nothing to fear."
I think Mordai trusts you and maybe puts his arms out and starts walking towards you to see if they'll do the same.
I'm curious about your potential betrayal, Mordai.
Me too.
I think the bees will move on after Osto. They won't come and collect your pollen. Perhaps the mud maybe deadens the smell or something, who knows? But in any case, they move on. And you can continue pressing deeper into the woods. So, Mordai, do you want that reduction roll?
Yeah. I think maybe next time we are within sight of the hunter bees, the ones that are on the ground, I sort of loud aside to Osto, let's see if these ones are as friendly, and like call for like bees over here and see how they react to Osto.
So this is not a secret betrayal.
This one is not a secret betrayal. No,
it's more of just a intriguing. Osto, how do you react when you realize that Mordai is doing this? Well, first of all, we should roll. Mordai, you should roll so that to see if the group realizes you're trying to betray them or if you're just being very foolish right now.
I got a 3, so that is under.
Indeed.
So I just appear as a fool right now.
Indeed.
Well, so how do you react, Osto?
So that means I don't detect that he's attempting to betray me?
No, you totally detect that. But I don't think you detect the motive. Yeah.
I just think I'm an idiot.
Yeah, or maybe I think Osto maybe thinks that you're attempting to test his trust in the bees or his faith in the bees. And Osto's used to tests of faith. So I think he just attempts to stand very calmly and wait for these bees to pass around him and pass and move on once they've satisfied themselves that he means them no harm.
Well, so Mordai did this with the soldier bees, the patrolling soldier bees, the ones on the ground, and a pair of them march toward you.
Can I do something?
Please, of course, yeah.
So I come up behind Mordai and I slip my hand over his mouth so that he won't call out to the bees. And I start pulling him back behind the tree. Osto is mad, but at least we might make our way through this if you would just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, I'll go along with that.
So Osto is just you and the soldier bees. And they approach you. You don't have any pollen to collect this time. You are just a man in the humming woods. What do you do when they approach?
I attempt to remain calm. I think I recognize that these are a different type of bee and potentially more dangerous, but they're investigating me because their job is to investigate anything that comes into their territory. So I just attempt to remain as calm as possible and seem as harmless as possible. Don't make any sudden movements, make all my movements slow and fluid, and make sure I don't accidentally bump into them or cause any disruption.
Let's do the risk roll. Mark and Kai, what could go wrong here if Rob fails the die roll?
They could, even though there's not any pollen or honey on the outside of him, perhaps they still smell the honey on his breath and attempt to collect it from the inside.
That's
Wow.
pretty good. I'm into that. What do you think, Kai?
The bees might actually mistake him for a bee and think that he's been trapped in all of these cloths that he's wrapped up in, and tackle him to try to get the cloths off of him.
Yeah, I like both of those options. They both lead to just sort of physical danger, and I'm into it. I don't know if I don't think I have anything to add. I'm going to go with one of those if you fail, Rob. Let's talk about your dice. What do you have for skills that might be helpful here?
Yeah, I think I've got a pretty thin case for saying that rituals might be
I'm into it, or like saints even.
Involved. That saints that I'm kind of, in a way, being respectful of their space and being calm and almost meditative in my.
Well, your relationship to
my
them seems
approach.
Religious now in a way, almost, right? I'm into it. Save your first slide die. Let's talk about devil's bargains. To remind you all, a devil's bargain is something that will happen in the fiction no matter what, if Rob chooses to accept the die for that devil's bargain. And I'm going to say that no matter what, you will have, whether this goes poorly or not, you will have a divine experience associated with this moment. That's my offer.
I don't think I can do better than that. That sounds pretty good.
You have one offer.
I am. That sounds so intriguing. I have to accept it. Yeah.
You have 2 light dice, and I think a dark die is automatic here. So roll risk 2-1.
I got a 6 light.
Hey, very good. You will get away. You will come out of this unscathed. I'll handle the religious part of it or the divine part of it, but just give me right up to that point what happens.
Yeah, I think Osto just tries to keep his hands close at his sides, remain still. These bees swirl around him, and they're notably more aggressive and inquisitive than the ones that came earlier, that were the sort of gatherer bees. They almost butt up against him, trying to provoke a reaction to see if he does have any hostile intent, or he will even try and defend himself. So I think we see Osto just trying to keep his breathing under control, remain in that meditative, calm state, and just try and endure this inspection for as long as is necessary. And I think just his years of hermitage or religious devotion kind of prepared him pretty well for stillness and emptying his mind and putting his body through deprivation as well.
After it's over and after these bees pass on, you will gradually start to collect a small collection of glowing amber bees buzzing around your head. It will eventually look like a seething crown in motion, a halo of bees over your head. And it follows you. It is a literal halo. I'm curious. To get Moradai and Kiva's opinion on this development. Mordai, why do you suppose this is happening to Osto, and what do you think of it?
Mordai is completely amazed. He was not expecting this to happen. He was almost expecting the beast just to destroy him. And I think he is, I don't know if he has converted his beliefs necessarily to match Osto's, but he is definitely his, the foundations of what he assumed about the beast have definitely been shaken.
Kiva, why do you suppose they chose Osto? What do you think it means?
So, firstly, my reaction is that I feel like I've witnessed the birth of a saint. And the problem with that is that organized religion has not treated me very well in my life. So I have a lot of distrust and discomfort around Osto at this point. Because they always change the rules, is the way she sees it. As for why it happened, I don't think he's wrong at this point. It seems that if you offer yourself up, then retribution is not to be found. And she's trying to process that, are my senses real at this point? So that's where I'm at.
Nice, thank you. You've had a long day, and you make camp for the night underneath a starlit sky. The woods reverberate with a constant hum. Sometimes you are able to ignore it, but other times you start to focus in and imagine hidden harmonies within the humming, echoes of lullabies from childhood. As you drift off, maybe not even bothering to set a watch because you're so exhausted. Moradai, what were the lullabies about back home? What was the subject matter? As some examples, in case you need it.
Yeah, they were mostly songs that I sang to my flock, and they mostly revolved around the time of day, the sun is setting, the seasons, the winter is coming. You're safe here. I'll protect you. All that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's good. Kiva, the constellations. Oh, if you want to talk about the lullaby, you can, by all means. But I was going to ask you about constellations as well.
What do you, yes, I have something about the lullabies, but what's your question about the constellations?
Yeah, just in case they sync up. I was just going to ask you, which constellation will you be navigating home by once you have your prize?
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Okay.
But tell us about the lullaby too.
Yeah. Well, my brother and I were on our own at a very young age. We didn't get lullabies, but I remember hearing one as I'm holding onto my brother's hand and I'm taking a loaf of bread off of a family's windowsill, and I hear the mother singing a lullaby to her child. So jealousy is what comes up with a lullaby. I think there is a centaur's bow and arrow, and I get to follow the arrow home. So
Nice.
Easy peasy, right?
Hopefully. Osto, this is a world of many gods. Every village, every river, every neighborhood, every farm, I mean, down to that small of a level, has their god. Sometimes it's the god is very personable. Sometimes it's more alien. Often it's an animal. The mother of millions is worshipped by some, a particular enclave of fanatic apiarists. I'm curious to get your thoughts about the gods. That is a reminder, the way this world works. We have all these gods, but knitting it all together is the sisters, these saints who have tried to bring order to this world of so many gods. And it's through the teachings of the sisters and the saints that the kingdom is sort of held together, right? It's a common thing that sort of binds everyone. Everyone gets to worship their weird gods, but the sisters keep society moving and operating and functioning by acknowledging those gods, right? There are some who say that the sisters themselves are not actually saints, that they are false, that they have other motives. There are many who think that the gods themselves are demonic and that the sisters serve them surreptitiously and are ultimately going to be the ruin of mankind. I'm curious what you think about the sisters and the gods. Are they false? Are they true? Has your opinion changed in the recent hours?
I think Oslo's opinion changed some time ago, and that's why he is a failed pilgrim. He spent some time, much of the early part of his life, devoted to the sisters and their attempt to, or the worship surrounding them. And he was a anchorite, so he was devoted to the point of being sealed into a chamber on the side of a temple and fed by charity of the community and spending his time in prayer and reflection. But I think at some point he saw something or experienced something that convinced him that this was a lie, or that there was corruption at the heart of this, or there was more to this than it appeared, and that's why he left that life behind him. And he's kind of been looking for something that is the deeper truth ever since. So I think he's disillusioned with the gods, disillusioned with the sisters, and certainly feels that they're, whatever reality there may be to them, whatever truth there may be to them, it's been misused by organized religion and used against people, used to subjugate people.
Or die. What did the sisters do, or their representatives in the world do, when you brought the problem of the Gesh to them?
I think I was maybe not dismissed, but the various reactions I got were floated between, this may be something that you did that you have to atone for, and that's why this is happening, to you've been blessed with this trial to show how what kind of person you are to them, and Mordai doesn't like that any of that.
Kiva, how did your opinion of the sisters and maybe even of the gods change after your brother was sent to Barcel prison?
I think if there was one thing that Kiva believed in, it was that hard work and perseverance will get you what you need. And there were gods and scriptures that, you know, she picked and chose that followed that paradigm that gave her that path. But it all seemed to become very arbitrary and hollow and false when my brother went to prison, because we've always been together, and we were meant to be together. So I don't think, I think she kind of threw that away when she left the tavern where she met these two.
And you all fall asleep with this constant hum in the air. And with the passing of the night, as you slip into slumber, so slips ring 3, and we shall proceed to ring 4 after we get back from a 5-minute break. Ring 4. The following morning, you are able to follow a trail of outgoing bee scouts winging away from the hidden hive. And also confirmed by the footprints of the moose. It is the right direction. And so you head out. At a certain point, you come upon a tree. Its profile has been warped by the presence of hexagon-shaped wax tiling. Not a hive, but some sort of standalone structure. And where the trunk reaches the ground, you see a rather miserable-looking human figure, barely clinging to life, embedded in the wax around the tree, immobile. They're wearing the mesh mask of a beekeeper. This might be another treasure hunter near the end of a failed journey, or it might be something different, Osto. But in any case, you can hear them calling out quietly as you all come upon him. He says, well, it's very quiet. You have to get closer. He says, he wants to tell you something. Moradai, what do you do?
I think Mordai's instinct is to lean closer and see what he has to say.
Is everyone getting closer to hear this benighted person, or?
I'm expecting an ambush, so I'm looking around.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm moving in. Also curious.
Moradai and Osto, you will see that as you get closer, you'll start to realize that there's a hum emanating from this person's chest. The bees have converted his body to a nursery chamber. Beneath the sticky cloth, you see ribs exposed, sheltering a comb of golden hexagons where tiny writhing grubs feed on honey and meat. Both of you please make a ruin roll. The person whispers, "Water, please, water."
Do you have any water, Mordai? I'm afraid I drank the wineskin that Kiva gave me earlier.
I think he probably did fill it while we were in the swamp. It may not be the best water, but Mordai does kneel down to give him some water. And I think as he does, he kind of leans close and whispers, "You've been blessed by the mother of millions. Count yourself fortunate." And kind of like a little bit of bitterness in there, because that's kind of what he was told. But he almost believes it.
I will note here at this point, you will all start to notice that the halo, Asta's halo started to sort of disappear just as the embers of the campfire disappeared. Doesn't mean anything in particular, just that it was never going to last forever. The person mutters to you, "Thank you. Thank you. There's no more hope for me, but there is hope for you. Up ahead, there are dead animals slaughtered by a terrible bear deeper in the wood. Cover yourself in blood and offal, and you will be invisible to the hive."
Mordai is super into that. He's and anything to disguise himself more is gonna definitely interest him. Maybe maybe he bristles a little bit that he's not disguising himself as a bee as such, but he is definitely interested in being unseen.
I'll be curious if you can make it into a bee thing somehow. I think that would be interesting. Kiva, you didn't hear any of this or see any of this because you're keeping an eye out. That's probably wise. You will start to hear the snap of twigs underfoot a little bit deeper into the woods. Something is moving around out there, something that's not a bee. What do you do?
Um, I move over to the 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 two Moradai and Osto. I grab a shoulder with each hand, and I'm like, "Okay, fools, we either move further in or we hide, but we do something now." And I'm looking to the one that does foraging and hunting and paths to be like to give us that route. So,
Does the do the noises sound large? Does it sound like that would be something? If I said that's a giant bear, that would make sense.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so I tell Kiva, this poor soul told me of a great bear that is hunting the woods right now, and although it poses serious danger, it may also give us a way forward. And tell them about the. So see if I can track down where those dead animals are.
The dead animals, yes. I like that. You do have an appropriate skill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, between foraging and hunting things.
Paths, yeah.
What could go wrong here? It's super scroll. What could go wrong, Robert Kai?
Possibly that one of the animals is not dead and is itself somewhat dangerous. A winged stag or something of that nature.
I think it could just be that the bear, if there is a bear, gets a jump on you. So which could be bad.
um, where the animals are being corralled, where we're being led to, is an open area of the forest, and rain rolls in, and all the blood and offal that we're supposed to use to disguise ourselves could just flow away.
Mm. Okay, let's talk about dice. You got your first light die. Let's do devil's bargains.
I think I'm also going to use my scent ritual to try and lead the way there.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I like
throw a
that.
dark die in there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I can't imagine a better use for it than right now than that at this point. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. You still get the option of a devil's bargain though, to get the second light die. My offer is, no matter what, the bear is like a meat mech for the bees. That's my offer.
No matter what, the man you were just speaking to, after we leave, rises and starts to follow us.
That would be horrifying, since we know he's partially trapped in in wax, and he's hollowed out nursery for bees, for bee larvae. I'd be dying to know what that looks like. Those are two very good offers. Rob, do you have an offer?
I'm trying to tie into the Witch of Navask somehow, but I'm not coming up with anything right.
Oh yeah, you should definitely try to get the witch. Like, you could just be like, she shows up.
Like, right? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Or I was thinking of something like the animal was under her protection, or was some kind of totem of hers, or something. I don't know. But yeah,
I can work out the details.
Oh, or one of the dead animals is from my flock. But
right, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Three very enticing choices if you want one of them.
I love I really would love to see the meat mech, but I think even more horrifying is the man following us. So I think I'm going to go with that one.
Very good. You got 2 light and 1 dark. You were doing the scent ritual, which says navigate a space by smell alone or follow the scent trail of a known creature. Take 2 light and 1 dark. Let's go for it.
There we go.
Doesn't get any better than that. 6 light. Full success. Describe it. You will navigate safely to the beasts.
So it is not very far, but it is far enough away that it's out of eyesight of the tree for sure. And there's a variety of forest animals that are ranging from small to maybe a boar or a deer, and they've clearly been mauled and partially eaten by something very large. They're also laid out in a strangely regular way. They're not just piled together. And I think seeing that, and there's, they're torn open, there's organs, bones, limbs, and there's no flies here in the forest. Maybe because there's a territory thing with the bees that maybe we haven't noticed before, that flies are not eating dead meat. And that I think if we want, we would be able to not cleanly, but relatively neatly take what we want to discuss ourselves with the animals.
I love it. Are you all going to cover yourself in guts and blood and offal?
Yeah, I think Osto's not quite convinced that this is the right route. I think he feels that not that the beekeeper man was lying as such, but that maybe he personally doesn't need that kind of protection from the bees because the bees are not his enemies.
Osto, what if you had like a big honeycomb dripping with honey? What would you do then?
If I was trying to take that away, you mean?
Or just if you just found some, or if like would you eat the honey? Would you cover yourself in the
Yes.
honey?
I think I would definitely start eating it, probably without even thinking,
Yeah,
without even realizing that I'm doing it.
interesting. I'm not saying there is, but there might be. We'll talk about it. Kiva, are you going to cover yourself in offal?
Well, just before I forget it, I've found a fairy circle of flowers, and I'm plucking each and every one of them because I need them.
Good.
Again, without really thinking about it. And it's, in my mind, it's just going to be easier for the bear to find us. So unless someone tells me, hey, you put this on, these guys, I'm going to make it out. They aren't. I just understand.
I think we need to have the scene then, because Mordai, you sound like you're doing it, but the other two are not.
Mordai. Yeah, I going off my hunting skill, I probably have some sort of like skinning knife or something, and he, without even saying anything, just goes to work. Goes to there's a largish boar there, and starts pulling the skin off, and like kind of gives it a second thought, and instead of like draping the skin over like you would, even though it's gross, turning it inside out so the meat part is on the outside and the fur is on the inside. And I think as he's just digging in and doing this, without even realizing it, he like starts smearing the patterns on his face and on him, and even at some point finds like there's some sinew and whatnot, and there's two small hooves that he straps to his head to look like antenna.
I think this is sufficient for everyone to do a ruin roll, because there's almost like a sort of Grand Guignol horrific poetry going on here as far as Mordai's behavior. How are we looking on ruin, folks?
My ruin is going up.
Indeed.
Let's see.
So is Kai's or Kiva's.
Not me.
Yours is surprisingly good.
Yeah, I love it.
I'd like to get the reactions of the two folks whose ruins are going up. How are you? How is the appearance of Mordai? I'll make it real precise. How is the appearance of Mordai enhancing your desire to appear as a flower or to consume sugar? Like, how is it pushing you even deeper into this?
Yeah, I think Osto's feeling a distaste for just the idea of eating meat. And certainly that, Mordai is now almost a kind of walking hunting totem or some kind of, gore covered figure. Yeah. And yeah, just it's kind of revolting in the sense of just it's not what his body is kind of tuned to crave right now. His body's craving this purer honey, this pure sweetness, not the decomposed rotten flesh or the blood or the entrails.
Kiva?
So I think Kiva is staring at Mordai, somewhat dumbfounded as to the fact that he's actually doing what he said he was going to do. And it's making her nauseated. But then her attention turns, the hairs on the back of her neck feel a bee walking across it, and then two bees walking across it. And she begins to spin, afraid. She puts her hand on a sword, like somehow that will help her. And like, she's not just delicately picking flowers up anymore. She's scooping her hands in the earth. Like, just wherever she can put it, she's stuffing it. And the more, and now eventually she'll smell the flowers again, and it'll bring back a calm to her. But she's on high alert and disgusted right now.
So at this point, it's worth pointing out that Kiva and Osto, you can now do reduction rolls if you wish to betray the group. And also Mordai, you can keep doing them. Once you do the first one, you can just keep going to lower your ruin even more and more if you prefer. But in any case, I will tell you, we're going to get to the devil's bargain. I haven't forgotten about that, by the way. But I will tell you that there's only one portion of royal jelly. There's only one mother of millions. There are at most 2 fabulous payouts here, or 2 treasures. You each have a waxen sack to collect the royal jelly in, whether that be a portion of it or the full amount. But in any case, whoever has a waxen sack is who has the best chance of getting out with something in this horrible journey. So if you're thinking of betrayal, well, a subtle knife slicing open one of your companion's waxen sacks is an option. Leading the bear to the group is another option. Then there's this option. The 2 of you, Ruin 5, you have separated yourself from the wretched Moradai and giving him some space downwind or upwind, I suppose. And you both start to feel wax dripping on your foreheads. Little drips of wax. They dribble down. And if you leave them long enough, they'll seal up your eyelids, but you can wipe it away. And Osto, you get just the tiniest little drop of honey with a larva wriggling around inside of it on your tongue. And you hear a voice above you, but behind you. My 2 afflicted treasure hunters, that says, the bees say, I can be let free if only I can find someone to take my place. Won't you help me? Won't you help me ease my suffering? If you turn around, you will see the man in the wax tree. The tree has uprooted itself, and like some of the flowers in Ring 2, it is moved. He is moving, and he's elevated a little bit above you because of the root system. And he's speaking this to you. Osto and Kiva, what do you do? How do you respond?
I have a response, but I don't know. So the rule says that I can't attack monsters, right?
Correct. You cannot. Not to kill them. You can do it to escape. But
okay. So I think my reaction is to leash out hell, maybe to melt it, to give me a chance to run away. But I think it's a pure reaction at this point.
Yeah. You have Kindle, so I mean, it could be very problematic for this wax covered being. Asta, what would your reaction be?
I think you know, the Mordai's actions over the last few moments has led him to suspect that Mordai is not going to make it. He's lost his mind. He's daubing himself with offal and blood, and most likely he's going to end up an offering to the bees in some way that will pay for our treasure that we're going to take. But I don't think he trusts this figure to be someone that they should be trying to save or trying to redeem necessarily.
Kiva, this being is not it's not hostile, so I don't actually need a risk roll, but I do like the fiction of what you're doing here, which is like a sort of like almost instinctive Kindle, right? Like, and I just want to know like what that looks like. Like, what do you do? What happens?
So I turn around and I see this thing, and you know, it's not a kata, it's not a martial art of any sort. It's a, you know, putting your hands in front of your face because the bully's about to hit it again, kind of reaction. And I think I end up shooting out these embers of burning flowers that have been stuffed into my sleeves, as this rolling green flame lights out from me. And when I finally come back to my senses, you know, I release and run.
The real danger here is that the man was a nursery for larvae, and unleashing your green fire on him will disturb that nursery, possibly even destroy many of the larvae. And that's the problem. He will just sort of like rasp and like kind of fall back. But Osto, you'll see inside the rib cage, as I've described it, the burning larva, the evaporating wax and honey, green flame, and he's just like he's almost like in a fugue state. I don't think he even knows what's going on as the tree sort of reels back with him. You can automatically straight away hear soldier bees marching toward you rapidly from the brush. They are on the two of you right away. Kiva, what do you do?
I pull out my sword to keep these things at bay, and I just through my teeth, I'm like, run, fools, run. And I will tarry but a few seconds, and hopefully they will run and I'll be following them. Otherwise, I will be leading them.
I like this as a risk roll.
Okay.
Let's have that. What do you have for you have defense, so I'm into that. So you have your first light die. What could go wrong though, Mark and Rob?
think maybe Osto is conflicted about what is the right thing to do in this situation, and he holds Kiva up.
Possibly the burning, melting wax may drip on him, setting him further aflame that he can't control, or she can't control.
I am going to say I think it's very simple. The soldiers just get you in their mandibles and tear you apart to pieces. So let's have you got your first light die. Let's do devil's bargains though. My bargain is no matter what, the bear chases away the soldier bees.
I would say no matter what, Kiva is badly separated from the others in the process.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think I've got anything else better than that.
We got two offers on the table. And I think a dark die is automatic here. So if you want one of the offers, it'd be 2 light, 1 dark. Otherwise, it's 1 light, 1 dark.
And what happens if I roll a dark 6?
Your character is lost to the forest. So,
Okay.
Yeah. It could be bees tearing you apart. No, because you'd succeed. So you would actually succeed at what you're doing, but you would be lost. It won't be right away. I'll give you a chance to build up to it, but yeah.
Got it. Okay. I'm gonna go with the bear. Chekhov's bear's been
It is indeed. Yeah, it was this last week actually. All right, go for it.
All right. Let's see here. 2 space 1. Okay.
You have a 5, which is a success but a complication. I think the complication, quite simply, is that you'll be safe. The bear will come in and ultimately chase the soldier bees off, but the bear has you all cornered. That's the complication, and you either have to. I don't know exactly what that's. I know it's going to look like, but I don't want to say it yet. But basically, you'll be cornered. Now, because there's a dark die here, and Osto, because you're on scene, you could do the help roll if you wanted to, Osto. It's very perilous because if you roll a 1, you would be lost to the forest. But you do have the option of doing the help roll, since there is a dark die in the roll to maybe try to get a 6. Also, Kiva, you have the option of adding a dark die and re-rolling the whole thing. So.
Oh, wow.
I feel like the help probably makes sense because
you're right there.
Yeah, I'm right there, and Osto is also interested in, not getting caught up in whatever the soldier bees are trying to do, even though he doesn't think they're threatening him directly. He doesn't want to stand in their way, and especially if the bears show up onto the scene.
So the way this works, if I recall correctly, I never can remember. I think you have to roll weak. And if the light die matches the dark die, then your ruin goes up. Otherwise, it just is added to the die roll.
Okay, let's give this a go.
It did nothing. I would like once we narrate the scene, I'd like to know how you're utterly useless in this moment, Osto. If you're okay with being cornered by the bear, then we can roll with that, Kiva. But otherwise, you can add a dark die to try to do the whole thing over again.
Yeah, I'll do that.
2 light, 2 dark.
Risk, not roll. Well,
hey, good result. Sometimes it is rewarded. Full success. Give me the whole scene. I'll pick up with the bear, but just give me the scene, like how you keep everyone safe. And then Asto, I'd love to know how you're being useless as well. But kick it off, Kiva. What does this look like?
Um, um, if I may, when we were discussing all of this in whatever tavern we were in, we were imagining these things, and we came up with a phrase for it. We said we were going to achieve nirvana. And so I yell out the words, I'm like, don't you want your nirvana? And I hope that snaps them out of what they're doing, reminds them of all of this stuff we've gone through. But I'm just hacking away with the sword, backing up, hoping to hear footfalls behind me. And I'll let them describe what they do, but like that's where I started up with.
Let's pick with Mordai first. Mordai, you're not actually like in immediate danger, but you can kind of hear what's going on. What do you do when you hear Kiva call out to you?
I think that does, like the secret words do snap me out from whatever sort of like gore trance I'm in. I'm still looking real rough, but I don't know that I'm useful in a fight. I think I just come closer to see if there is an opening for help, but I don't interfere yet.
Asto, you are utterly useless right now. How?
Yeah, I think as soon as Osto heard the soldier bees coming, his instinct was to try and get out of their way. But as he did so, he, turned and blundered into then heard the noise of the bear coming maybe from the direction he was heading in, and had to turn back around, and just ended up turning around and around so many times that it was hard for Kiva to get him headed in a sensible direction.
The bear does approach the scene. The bear first grabs hold of the trapped beekeeper, and he opens up the beekeeper's rib cage and begins to feast on the honey and larva inside of the beekeeper. And when that's done, as you're all sort of, running and fending yourself, you're fending off soldier bees, the bear just lopes and just skewers soldier bee after soldier bee with this massive paw. It's an uncommonly large bear, and is just tearing them apart limb from limb. And as we see you all running deeper into the woods to get away, we just see the bear standing up on its hind legs, triumphant, with twitching soldier bees on its large paws, and it roars. One of you is covered in offal. The other two are not. The hive is so close. The humming is a constant tickle in the ears, a thrumming in the chest, as if the woods themselves are trying to take flight. Are you, a question for everyone, are you making your own destiny here? Are you finding the hive on your own? Or are you being herded by the bees? What do you think, Mordai?
Mordai believes that he is following his own destiny, whether that's true or not.
Kiva?
Kiva's beginning to believe that she is cursed, and that free will is laughable at this point. That she if she keeps her mind sharp, she might see a way out of this. But no, this is just a nightmare.
Osto, same question.
I think Osto still feels that the bees don't directly mean him any harm, and if he's respectful to them, they won't hurt him. He knows the soldier bees are trying to deal with this, whatever this beekeeper character did, and whatever the bear is doing. That I think he maybe feels that they're leading him, but not hurting him as such. They're not controlling him with some kind of malicious intent, but enticing him further in.
Those of you with Rune 5, this might be your last shot to do reduction rolls if you want to take them. I will open up the floor to possible reduction rolls here if you have an idea for how to betray the group. Otherwise, you can stick with your 5. It's fine too.
Yeah, I was kind of my instinct was that somehow Mordai would become some kind of host for the bees in the same way that this man we found has.
So you're sticking with your Rune 5 then? Or are you just going to try to invite bees into your body?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a way I can kind of encourage that outcome or make that outcome more likely or make him their target somehow.
Interesting.
I'm not sure at this stage.
Okay. Kiva?
So Kiva thinks she sees the golden hoof prints of the moose. And she wants to guide us away from that so that when these fools are taken, she can go back and get what she needs. So they can't get close to the treasure that she wants.
Interesting. I like that. So you're basically going to erase the hoof prints. Is that the idea?
Or keep them from view. Like she needs them to get where she's going. She just wants to make sure that no one else sees them.
I like that. Go ahead and roll reduction. Do / reduction.
Okay.
You're going down to 4 and no one detects you doing this. How are you covering them up? Just with like leaves or something?
Flowers. I think there's plenty of flowers available. Giant stamen here and there.
Yeah. I love it. Speaking of giant stamens, there's this horrible, wretched smell that is surrounding Moradai. But something sweet, something fragrant is cutting through that rot smell around Moradai. Osto, if you pay attention close enough, you'll see that as Moradai speaks, pollen is drifting from his mouth. Flower petals dribbling down the side of his chin like wine. At one point, you can even see green tendrils inside the mouth and throat. There's something inside Moradai. And with that said, so passes ring 4. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and do the final ring. Ring 5. You have arrived at the sixth form heart, the hive fortress of the humming woods. It's in the distance, but it's big enough to where you can see it from where you're at. Comb structures engulfing trees all the way to their peaks, forming an immense and irregular dome surrounded by a hive of activity. Drones, soldiers. Importantly, for your purposes right now, there is a patrol that you'll have to get past in order to get close to the sixth form heart. This is where your map might be helpful. Where your map might be helpful. But before even that, Moradai, our flowering treasure hunter, you are practically breathing flowers and pollen at this point. Kiva, how do you feel about Moradai having achieved what you've been trying to achieve this whole time?
Um, it reminds me of all of the noblewomen I've ever been with. Even when they fail, they succeed. And, you know, for some people, it's dumb luck, and not hard work and perseverance. So, my opinion of Mordai gets even smaller.
Your envy may dissipate quickly because Moradai is set upon by a large amount of fist-sized bees. They begin to swarm Moradai, and they begin to try to force themselves into Moradai's gullet to get at the pollen, to get at the flowers inside of him. I would like for everyone to roll Ruin, please. Everyone's doing okay as far as Ruin goes. Moradai, what do you do in response when you realize what's happening?
Yeah. The first emotion Mordai feels, I think, is frustration and anger towards our hive friend for misleading us about the entrails. Although he doesn't feel necessarily bad about trying anyway. But then I think after that first wash of like, my plan didn't work, I think he also, I think, has a little bit of the jealousy only towards Osto, that when he had the bees on him before and I sort of approached, they just ignored me. I think he believes this is his time to show the bees that he means no harm as well. And so I think I'm going to try to do the same thing, like just open my mouth and lean back and
receive them.
Try to stay still. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a risk roll for sure. What could go wrong here, Kai and Rob? I know it's going to go wrong. Probably you are going to be essentially destroyed from the inside as bees force them their way into your body, but I'm open to other ideas.
I can't think of anything.
I think it's such a
transparent. Yeah, it's very transparent. Yeah. You got. Let's talk about your dice. Do you have a relevant skill?
I don't think I have a relevant skill, but I think I will use the summon ritual to call the bees to me.
So you don't have any light dice yet. So let's talk about Devil's Bargains then. You're going to be doing the summon ritual, which I think is an interesting move. Any Devil's Bargains is your only chance to get a light die. So who has any offers? I'm going to say no matter what, you can't leave the sixth form heart.
I was
Nope,
thinking
I
something
take it
along
back.
the lines of.
Oh, go ahead, Rob. I'm changing mine, but go ahead, Rob.
I was thinking something along the lines of him kind of merging with the beekeeper that was trying to swap places with him. That there's some kind of the two become one, as it were.
That's kind of what my initial offer kind of was. I think like this idea that like you're sort of at the end of this, you're not getting out of here, right? Basically, is the idea. I'm going to change my offer though, and my offer is going to be the Witch of Navask shows up.
Nice.
Mine is that while or no matter what happens, the pollen flows into your bloodstream and begins to pass the blood-brain barrier. So even if you're successful, like it still has a chance to get you.
Yeah.
In the long term, maybe. Yeah. Like these are all really rough offers.
Those are all great, but yeah, but I'm really interested in seeing what happens when the witch shows up. So I think I'm going to go with that one.
Okay, very good. And so you have one light die. You're doing the summon ritual, so that's one dark die. So 1/1. You have a 4 with a complication. I'll tell you the complication. You can decide whether you want to add a dark die or not. The complication is going to be the witch is here giving an offering to the Mother of Millions. You may not like the offering.
Yeah, let's add a dark die. See what happens.
1, 2. Risk is being rewarded tonight. Yes, it is. 6 light, and you're and because the dark die wasn't high, you don't have to increase your ruin either. This works. What does the ritual look like? What does this moment look like? This feels like a big moment.
I think the ritual is something that is kind of comes naturally to him, that he used to sort of unconsciously use to bring his flock together before it was torn apart. It's more about he starts singing those little songs that Osto liked so much, and they're kind of like the happy gorilla food songs, just like little tuneless tunes to sort of let the bees know that I mean no harm. This is safe. Let me feed you. You're welcome here. You don't have to take what you want by force, basically. And just sort of lean back and open myself up and let him have at it.
I love it. We'll talk about the witch. Did you give us any just like what kind of person are they, or have you really told us what the witch herself is like?
I haven't said anything about the witch herself. I think the only detail was that she had some domain or some border that I had crossed into, whether it was a physical one or otherwise.
Right, yeah. I like it. As you're looking up, your mouth agape, drawing the bees in, letting them take from you. You see, first you think it's a bee, but it's not. You realize now it's not. It is a shape in the air, though. It is a crone. A crone flying around in a bucket, because that's what the Witch of Navask does. And she's here. For what reason is she here? We don't know, but she's here. Kiva, there is the matter of the patrol. Well, first of all, I'm curious what the two of you think about just what's happening right now, what's transpiring with Mordai, Osto. Like, Mordai's having this sort of experience that you were having. Like, how are you feeling? You don't have any flowers to offer the bees. That's for Osto. Oh, Rob, did you hear me? Or am I?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking to Kiva.
No. I switched to you. How do you feel about the fact that Moradai is having this experience right now that, you know, similar to what you were having, and importantly, you don't have any flowers to offer the bees like Moradai does.
Yeah, and I'm starting to suspect that I need some kind of offering for the bees, and I don't have one other than possibly that Moradai is my offering.
What an interesting idea. Do you want to do a reduction roll to make a side deal with the bees right now?
Yeah, I'm wondering
Or
what
even
that
the
looks
witch.
like. Yeah, I definitely don't trust the witch, but
I don't think you're aware of her yet, but out of character, I'm happy for it to be a deal with the witch too.
For me, I'm starting to have this fantasy of cutting into his stomach and pulling the flower out for myself.
Well, that was my follow-up question. How are you, because like, it's almost like Moradai is like doing what the two of you were like trying to do, and is like manifesting it here, right? In this way.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for him to burst forth in gouts of honey. All of that pollen within him turning into the reward.
Yeah. Well, so what do you do, Austin? So, Asta, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm yeah, I think I do need to make it clear to the bees that Moradai is what I'm bringing to them. You know, here's this source of pollen. Here's this thing for you to consume and feed your larva on and grow your hive. Here's this, I've seen them do that or it appears to me that I've seen them do that to, the beekeeper and these various animals as well. But they're consuming the flesh of these offerings and turning it into the honey. And Osto sure wants some honey. So yeah, I think somehow I try to communicate to the bees, whether that's talking to them directly or I think I even may just gesture towards Moradai and say, take him, see what we brought for you, our gift.
I don't know how much the bees can respond to that, but I will tell you that you will hear a voice behind you, a woman's voice. She says, I am a sister to the mother of millions. I can confer with my sister, tell her of your offering.
This man has lost himself on the way here. He's given himself as our offering to you. there is some manner of pollen growing inside him. He could be a fine nest for the bees. His flesh could be rendered into the honeycomb that is the bounty of the hive.
This man is known to me. This man is known to me. And I am certainly happy to relay your offer to the mother of millions. But what will you give me in exchange? Again, this is just a voice behind you.
Mhm. Yeah, I think out of character, it's the witch, but also doesn't know that. He thinks it's some manifestation of the hive itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can offer you my devotion. All I seek is entrance to the swirling court. I've given my life in devotion to lies, but I see the truth of the world that the hive has built here in the heart of this wood.
Make your reduction roll and see if either of your companions are aware of your treachery.
That's just straight up rolling, typing reduction.
Yep.
I rolled a 3.
The ruin goes down. How do you feel like you are regaining some control over yourself right now?
I feel that this is working, that I'm negotiating with the bees. I have some level of power here, that I'm bringing them something they want, and it's not. I'm not lost in their domain so much as I'm a welcome guest here, because I'm bringing them a tribute.
Good. Kiva, you're not aware of any of this, except you do see what Mordai is happening, what's going on with Mordai. The immediate concern here is the patrol, Kiva. What are you going to do about that? If you're going to reach the sixth form heart, you got to get past the patrol.
I see. Okay. So here's my pitch. Kiva feels like she knows how to get exactly where she needs to. All she has to do is get back to the prince. What she really needs is for the bees to be distracted, and the biggest distractions I have are these two fools here with me. So I'm hoping through the power of flattery to convince Mordai to lead us into the heart, and when the patrols come upon the two of them, I can run, and I can get back where I need to be.
I like it. I like this as a moment, in fact. Why don't we fast forward to that? So we see the three of you approaching the hive. The patrol approaches, and Kiva, you just leave them to it? You're just abandoning them? Is that the idea?
Yes.
I'd say it's a reduction roll, but it's fairly obvious what you're doing. And so
Right.
You just leave them to it and you run. I will tell you that as you get close to this large sort of, as I described it, the trees are essentially engulfed up to their peaks in like comb structures, right? And it's this immense irregular dome. And you're lucky, Kiva, because in the face of the structure is a tall, deep gouge left by an immense and hungry forest creature, possibly the moose. The ragged opening yawns wide enough for one treasure hunter to fit into at a time. You going for it?
Oh, absolutely.
Indeed.
It's within my grasp.
Kiva's running to get to that gap. Mordai, what do you do? Are you going to try to stop Kiva, or are you just going to, what are you going to do?
Is the patrol like upon us?
The patrol is going to come
just
upon
within?
you, yeah, pretty soon. Yeah.
Yep. I think this is where I just confer with Osto and be like, this is our chance to show them, like, join me, and I like do the open arms again, like he did before with the like, clearly this works, so why wouldn't we both do it now? And like Osto, come on, like, let's show them that we're both on the same team.
Yeah, and I
You
think
do.
Osto's very pleased with that, because he's not running from this patrol. He thinks the patrol is coming to retrieve the offering.
To retrieve the offering. Yeah. I think that's what happens, Moradai. They just the two bees swoop down. These are the big ones. They swoop down and they just grab you up. And you hear the voice behind you, Osto, that says, "Your offering is well met." And Moradai, as you are being lifted up, Osto doesn't seem to see the person, but you see the Witch of Navask right behind Osto, inside her bucket, whispering into his ear, "Make a ruin roll." What are you thinking right now, Mordai?
I think he's torn, because like I think he's ecstatic to be taken by them, and his like he first instinct he was turning around to be like, Osto, you're next, don't worry, they're coming for you too. But when I see the witch, I think that cry turns from like almost get halfway through it, and then finish just with like, oh no, don't trust her. Come with me.
You are taken up to the very top of the sixth form heart, where there's a hole. And you are rather unceremoniously dropped down inside the hole. You spat into a thick glob of wax, and you can feel your body sinking into the wax quite rapidly. In the distance, you hear cries in the wax, muffled. Animals, a baby's cry, someone weeping, and your face is nearly consumed by it. What do you do? You're muted, Mark.
I think this is the moment where he finally realizes that he's made a terrible mistake, and I think the shock just sends his mind back to singing those little songs to the bees. I think he just struck senseless, just reverted to doing that.
We shall send you to epilogue then in a moment. Kiva, you run to this yawning gap, just big enough for one person. There's a little bit of wax there, but it gives way fairly easily to your sword. Do you go inside?
Absolutely.
You press forward deep into the hive, and you're surrounded on all sides by bees, small bees, big bees. They are thick and buzzing, and everywhere you look, crawling around as you make your way through this narrow passage. They are all up on the walls, they are on the ceiling, and you're just pressing away at the wax, trying to get to the heart of this thing. You are not disguised in any way, and so the bees will eventually, the bigger ones will eventually try to get you in their mandibles and stop you. What do you do to get past them once you realize that their mandibles are trying to tear you apart?
Um, well, I kind of want to have a blazing dark flashback. Um, can I have
Go for
collected
it.
pollen along
Oh,
the
sure.
way?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. I dump a bag of pollen to try to confuse them while I slip by.
Feels like a risk roll.
Yeah.
Osto, what are you doing in the meantime? We'll come back to the roll, but Osto, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think with his offering accepted, or seemingly,
Seemingly.
he doesn't suspect that there's this other actor, the witch, involved. I think Osto's going to head for that hole as well, and by his estimation, Kiva will either be coming out with a treasure that he can either share or take from her, or Kiva will have been destroyed by the guardians of that, the guardians within, and Osto will be allowed to pass it.
I think I actually don't want to do that risk roll after all, Kiva. I think what I want to do instead is the contest roll between the two of you. Because in fact, there was no offerings, just the witch's duplicity. the bees were going to come get you next. So, Osto, I think you realize as you go through the passage, you see Kiva ahead. Kiva has thrown this pollen down to sort of like distract the bees, and that's good. But you realize pretty quickly that the bees are hostile to you as well. How do you know you've been tricked by the witch?
I think that, Osto expected these soldier bees to take the offering and then almost make a path for him, and he sees them now turning to him, and being more aggressive than they were, or equally aggressive as they were toward Mordai, and starts to suspect that something is not right.
I think this is going to be a contest roll to reach the heart of the hive, to claim one of the treasures or both of the treasures, I suppose. Here's how the contest roll works. Let's take a look at the rules. It's a slightly more complicated roll, so I'll pull up the actual text here. Let's see, risk, help, contest. So the contest roll manages situations where treasure hunters are kind of against each other or vying for something. And to engage in it, we have to agree what's at stake. And I think essentially it's just who's going to reach the heart and who's not, basically, is what it boils down to. You will each take one light die if the contest is something you are skilled at because of your occupation or background. You can only get one light die for skills, even if you have multiple skills, as long as you have a skill that's relevant to this moment, by all means.
Yeah, I know I have skills in rituals and spirits, and this is kind of me making my supplication toward them.
I'm almost there with you on that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch.
It's a bit of a stretch, just because. What do you think, Kiva? What skills do you have applicable?
Athletics.
I like athletics because this is just quite a physical brute force kind of thing at this point. Maybe improvisation. Can you come up with something there, Osto?
Yeah, that was the one I was looking at because that's so broad in interpretation.
Sure.
That, yeah, I think, part of what Osto's trying to do here is use his improvisational skills that he has used to kind of sell his supposed skills in augury or whatever to kind of trick the bees into taking his rival or leaving him alone. Whether that's just as simple as appearing humble before them and not a threat.
I see. Yeah. You're
whereas
supplicating
Kiva is
almost.
more. Yeah, right. Whereas Kiva is more of an action-oriented person. She's a warrior.
I'm into it. You also each take a light die for each mark of ruin you currently have. So with that, you're both up to 5 light dice in total. And then you take 1 dark die if the contest itself is inherently deadly or dangerous. It definitely is. And then you can take as many dark dice as you are willing to risk, in addition to your 5 light and 1 dark. You'll roll them all up. You'll count all the 6s. Whoever has the most 6s wins the contest. In the case of a tie, we go down to 5s and so forth. For each dark die that has a 1, you mark 1 ruin. So this is the moment.
Is there a way to bring rituals in here at all?
Apart from fictional positioning, no.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be you're a 5 light, 1 dark, plus as many dark as you wish. And for every dark that ends up a 1, your ruin goes up by 1. But you're looking for 6s.
Do we roll this using the risk command?
It'll be the risk command, but I want to know how much you're doing first before you both roll.
I get 1 dark die. Oh, sorry, I get 1 dark die anyway, and then another 4 for my ruin.
You have 5 now. Yeah, well, you've got 5 light total plus 1 dark right now at the start.
Oh.
You both do.
I'm tempted to just go all out and put in another 3 dark.
So it'd be 5, 4 then?
Yeah.
How many dark are you going to do, Kiva, if any, extra?
5, 2.
Okay, so very interesting. Osto, go ahead and roll your 5, what was it, 4?
Okay, I'm trying to interpret what I've got there. I have 3 6s.
And one of your dark is a 1. So
and one of my dark is a 1, so my ruin goes up to 5.
Indeed, it does. And let's have
I got
yours.
pretty lucky.
Yeah, you're 5, 3, Kiva. Or you're 5, 2.
Odds are not going to be with me tonight.
Who knows? Your ruin goes up, and you didn't get any 6s. So,
yep.
Osto, you're reaching the heart first. Give me the scene. What is it? Give me the whole scene. How do you defeat Kiva? How do you get past Kiva in this moment?
Because the as we start crawling through these tunnels that are sticky with the wax and honey, and there are bees moving around us in tunnels parallel to where we are, or behind us or ahead of us. And I think Osto at a certain point just has a look toward Kiva, and he goes quite still and tries to press himself flat against the tunnel. And a soldier bee, or several soldier bees even, because they're not as big as a man, right? They crawl right across Osto's body, and they almost move right past him because he holds himself so still and so appears so harmless that they move right past him, and he hears the sound up ahead of them reaching Kiva, because Kiva was obviously into the hole long before Osto was. And at that point, he just keeps pressing onward and occasionally passing more bees, until he bursts through into what he believes to be the heart. He's following his instincts. He's not, there are so many branches and twists, and so on, he can't do anything but just trust to his luck to find his way.
You reach the heart of the hive, and you see two things. A basin, sort of carved of wax, inside of which is a glistening royal jelly. And moving around the basin is the mother of millions. She's small, about the size of your fist. And she's she's who she is, because she is a rich amber color, almost gold. What do you take? The jelly, the mother, or both?
I think Osto has convinced himself that the bees are not hostile to him, and that they've made a trade. So I think he feels entitled to the jelly. He doesn't try to take the mother, but he does try to take the jelly.
You take the jelly, and we'll push you to epilogue. Kiva, you eventually manage to make your way through the scrum. You force your way past the bees. You can see up ahead the gap in the wax that Osto has used to escape the hive. The jelly is gone, but you see the mother of millions, golden, crawling around. Do you take her?
I do take her.
Roll ruin.
There's no numbers with the ruin, right? I just type in ruin.
And you take her. You will have her power, whatever that means to you. And you shall also go to epilogue. Let's take a 2-minute break real quick. Everybody think of their epilogue. Mark, thank you for being patient since we lost your character kind of earlier. We'll come back and we'll do our epilogues. So epilogues should be about your character and only your character. They can be about your character directly, or they can be something about the world based off what happened to your character. It can be the people you left behind even, right? But just a fairly quick vignette showing us what the end of your story looks like. Whoever wants to go first, please do. Hit the wrong button, sorry.
I think I have what it is. It is going to be Mordai, and he has just been, he's part of the hive now. He's been embedded in that wax. And because of the pollen that continually blooms from him, he is treated more as a resource for pollen gathering rather than a chamber to build more hive inside of. And I think he remains trapped in that cell for a very long time because they keep feeding him nectar to keep him alive, so they can continue to harvest that pollen, kind of perversely fulfilling what he wanted in the first place, but in the worst possible way.
Yikes.
Thank you.
Which doesn't get my soul.
Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I think we see Osto scrambling out of the hole in the entrance to the hive, and with this waxen sack containing the jelly that he's convinced himself that he traded Mordai's sacrifice for. I don't think the bees necessarily see it that way. And I don't think he makes it out of the forest before the bees, those soldier bees, hunt him down and find him and reclaim what he was stolen. And I think the last we see of him is as the bees bear down on him in the forest. He tries to just take one taste of the jelly from the sack before they get him one last taste of the sweetness.
Thank you. And Kiva.
Wow. The Mother of Millions is not immortal. And once in age, a woman finds her way deep into the heart of the forest. Kiva is staring at this bee that she's holding in her hands, almost like it's a pet of some sort. And the pet stings her and falls over. And Kiva falls backward, the paralysis beginning, her body becoming an engine to create the next Mother of Millions.
I love it. So passes a warm and pleasant hum. Let's do our debrief. Stars and wishes. Stars can be about both sessions, anything, and you can have as many stars as you wish. And wishes in this context, I don't really know it. We'll just say wishes are, in this context, maybe story threads you would have liked to have seen go in a different direction, or maybe what it would look like to go in a different direction, or if there's something about the game that you would like do differently. I think that's interesting too. But in any case, I'll start though and say that I absolutely love this 2-session Trophy Dark. It was great. It was really, really enjoyable. And I think the thing I love the most about it is we managed to reincorporate everything. I don't think we left anything on the table in terms of reincorporating it back into the story. And so I was really, really happy with that, because it kind of gave the whole 2 sessions a very, very like coherent cinematic feel, which I really appreciated. And I always appreciate that, but it just came across really nicely in this. And there were consequences for your actions, and I think that's really important. Like, actions were taken and consequences were had as a result. And so that's my overarching star, I think. I've got more to say, but I'll let you all talk.
Big star for the 2 epilogues there. They were great. I particularly liked the idea of Kiva becoming kind of the next Mother of Millions. That's pretty powerful there.
One, it also like reflects, it's like an answer to the idea of, did you find this place? Or are you being herded here? Right. So,
right. I think in terms of wishes, a couple of things spring to mind. I kind of wish I'd established Osto's motivation a little better, his drive. I'm not convinced tied into why he was trying to take this treasure. I could have set that up a little better at the beginning of the first session. And again, I didn't get to use my rituals. Never happens. But yeah, I really enjoyed we were all leaning into the kind of betrayal of each other there, and like everyone was enjoying that, I think, which was cool. That's always one of the nice things with Trophy.
Yeah, agreed.
So
yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna mention that I think I think this game is really great at engineering and managing that sort of like conflict between the characters in a way that supports the story instead of it could be way worse. And everyone buys into it, and it's really great, I think. Again, like last time, the pacing and just really fantastic tone and details and everything just makes it's just gorgeous. I love it. And from Jason and the players, it's really good. And yeah, I just really enjoyed how everyone kind of both dug into who their characters were already, but also like willing to immediately incorporate anything, no matter how bizarre that happened to them, and folding that into their deal. That's just always really great to see. I loved it.
Go ahead, Kai.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I think the biggest star for me was so I'm in my mind, both Osto and Mordai were dealing with religious themes. For me, Mordai was a Jesus figure trying to gather his flock in that way, and then Osto, in some cases, literally doing divine things. But and at first, I was outside of all of that, and there is some horror in being left out in that situation. But Jason asked questions that let me fill in my past and deal with religion in my past. So I felt like, I might have been kind of perpendicular to it all, but I did connect with it. And so I really liked the religious themes that were in it. Especially the pietà you mentioned. Right.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you found the questions helpful, because when I posed those questions, those are not in the incursion, by the way. When I posed those questions, I was really trying to be responsive to what seemed to be thematically important to the group. Like, it was like, okay, the religious aspect really seems to be like a big deal here, and so how do I tease that out? And so I'm happy that you were able to kind of like pick up on that. I mean, what I think is so great about this sort of question and response style of role-playing games, which we love to do in the Gauntlet, but is a story gaming kind of thing in general. What I think is so great about it is it creates this like almost organic language of the fiction, right, that I think didn't exist until the questions were posed, right? And once you start answering the questions and thinking about it, you start to sort of slip into this sort of space of the world. And I just think it's a great way of doing a game. And so I was really happy. I could see you all sort of like responding and reincorporating and doing that. And it felt good. It was fun to watch. I'll throw out another star just while I'm talking. I thought that Kai, you did a great job of always bringing it back to your brother. I liked that a lot. I think you probably did the best in terms of like keeping the drive thing front and center. Having said that, I really did enjoy there was almost like a sort of morbidity in the flock idea, right? And like the different ways that there was almost like a lot of like irony, like related to like the gathering of the flock and the Gesh and stuff. So that when the witch finally showed up, and just to be like a nuisance, like just to be like a thorn in your side, it was almost like the punchline to a joke. And I just really liked that. I thought that was so great. That's how I perceived it anyway. I thought it was really great, especially the way your character ended. Like, it just felt like such a ironic end, considering what your job was before the Gesh, right? And now what your job is at, you know, with the Hive. It was really intriguing to me. And I guess my last like sort of individual star, Rob, Rob, I really think you kicked off last session the whole idea of like turning it to a religious experience, giving yourself over to the bees. And I think that really changed the tone of the whole incursion. Like, I think the tone became this, it went to like the full daylight midsummer type horror, right? Which was so good. And we got to really see that, like, we got that delivery all the way through. I thought that was really, really terrific. And across the board, everyone did a great job with Play to Lose. So that was a delightful thing for me. Any other stars or wishes?
Yeah, I think I just got lucky in a way that the kind of vision I had for who Osto was just tied into that stuff so well, or lent itself. You know, I wasn't even thinking it, but it just kind of flowed into letting me do that. That you know, he was somebody who'd had faith and lost it and was now looking for another one.
So I had a so when Osto won the contest and got to the heart first, I thought you were going to come back to me with a situation a la Mordai and be like, be ready for your epilogue. And my thought was, you know, I had this mirrored scene in my head of Kiva like trying to burn her way through this, you know, being surrounded by bees. And then the guards at the prison being like, she never showed up. And they're like walking in towards my brother to a similar fate. So I guess that was, yeah,
good,
yeah. So that was, you know, an alternate timeline, I suppose.
I love the Barcelona Prison Drive. I like it in general, and I really love it in Gold, because in Gold you get a lot more time with the characters, and you get to really really like dig into like why Barcelona Prison is so horrible. You know, you get little flashes of it in Dark, but in Dark it's so much more of just a sort of background thing. You know, in Gold you get to really like tease it out, but it's a fun drive because the stakes are so immediate, and the motivations are like very like straightforward and easy to work with. And so I always really like that one. I always think it's a fun drive when it comes up in play. Yeah. I'm just ruminating on Barcelona Prison now, but if I had one wish, I don't know. I think there's a part of me that wanted the Mother of Millions to be more horrific. She's not actually described in the incursion, and I think that's intentional. We know some things. She's obviously small enough to grab, but we don't otherwise get any descriptions of her. And there was a part of me that kind of wanted it to be a horrific encounter, but it didn't feel right for the moment. Something about the moment I wanted the moment to be almost more. I almost like imagined the Mother of Millions as like it's almost like the Holy Ghost or something. You know, it was like this like little like small moment, you know, like this voice, you know, or I don't know, like it's not really a wish as much as like I'm curious how it would have played out if it had been a more horrific encounter at the heart, you know, because it's not written to be, which I think is really interesting, because most other Trophy Dark incursions, the Ring 5 is like the operatic lose your mind, you know, everything's horrifying moment, right? But it's not in this one. I think that's super interesting. Yeah, I think it's a super interesting thing. Yeah, I mean, I think it worked out okay, but there's a part of me that wonders, like, if it had been like a more grotesque thing, what would that have, how that affected the story?
It's always interesting to go read the incursion after playing it. I've done that a couple of times now, and
Yeah.
I haven't read this one deliberately because but yeah, I'll probably go back and read it now, and it'll be really interesting.
The biggest
to see where
addition, the biggest addition to ours was the bear, and that I got that from
Mhm.
this. I got that from the folk tale from last time. The
Mm.
bear is not in the original incursion, but so thematically, it was so on point for like bees and
Yeah.
honey, right? So yeah,
Right.
kind of like made a lot of sense. Any other stars or wishes?
A really great time, y'all. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yep.
Yeah,
For
same.
sure.
Yeah, I hope we can play again sometime. That was cool.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, I always put up sessions every now and then, so just keep your eyes open. But it was great fun playing with you all. Kai, it was great to play with you for the first time, and Mark, I was delighted to be able to run something for you finally. And I feel like I've known you for years and years, but I've never run
Yeah.
anything for you. So that was fun.
Oh, we
And,
have role play together, Jason. We played
Oh,
Cheat
wh-
Your Own Adventure at Camp Nerdling.
Oh my word! I have no memory of that, but I believe you. I have no.
It was
I-
late at night. It was late
Yeah,
at
I
night.
have like no memory of that. Oh. Was this like
We did the trilogy, the horror film.
That's
trilogy.
right. What a great memory. Gosh, that's so cool. And now I'm trying to like remember, like, I kind of, I apologize for not for only vaguely remembering this moment, Guy, but
It's okay.
that's way too far long ago for my old brain. But,
Pre-pandemic.
that was fun though.
Pre-pandemic.
Camp Nerdly was fun. I hope that's something that comes back eventually. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
Camp Nerdly. So, but well, I'm gonna let you all go, but this is really fun. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Yeah.